Okay, we're good now.
Hold them out, Penny.
We're on. Okay. We're all set. Are we off? I'm recording. We are not. Thank you and welcome back. We're just returning from closed session. We will move on to item number 6, which is our committee of the whole. First item 6.1 under general government is the 2026 budget process. There's a memo in your packages and I will pass the floor to Mr. Barble.
Thank you, Your Worship. This memo discusses some of the changes that need to happen this year as a result of the strong mayor power legislation. Now, as we all know, the mayor and many other mayors have delegated certain powers and indicated how they intend to apply the legislation. One of the things that's a bit of an exception, however, is in the legislation, the budget process belongs to the mayor. And so with that said, our treasurer, Director of Corporate Services, has done a lot of investigation on it, and I'll pass the floor to her, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So I did put this sort of flow chart so you can see it is a really different process this year. And so, as Mr. Barbo said, you know, under the strong mayor legislation or under the strong mayor framework, there are things that the mayor can delegate, and budget is not one of them. So the mayor is required to present the budget. Once the budget is presented by the mayor, there's again, it's a very prescribed process with timelines as far as what has to happen from that time. So it starts that, you know, the budget must be presented before February 1st. I don't think that's going to be a concern for us. We've always, the last several years, looked for budgeting time before that and all that kind of stuff. But then these timelines that sit between that, so council's got 30 days and then mayor's got sort of their 10 days and all these things, these periods can be shortened. So if you've got a process that you know that you're going to be able to move through quicker, council can shorten the 30 days that it has, the mayor can shorten the 10 days that she has, and council can shorten the 15 days at the end as well, if you know you're going to get to a process. Otherwise, you have to wait for all these dates to elapse before you move on to the next stage. It wasn't necessarily that we sort of needed kind of decisions tonight, but I certainly wanted to make sure council was aware that the process was going to be different this year, and that once we start the process from a mayor presenting the budget, then there's these timelines that that kick in, and they are kind of legislated timelines, that it's sort of out of our hands on that process. So I'll hand it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. On that note, our CAO, Ms. Craddock, and I met last week. Just to go over this, because obviously this is new to me as well, and they indicated at that time, again, like it's not something that can be delegated. So the legislation speaks very clearly as to what the process is. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, and we have talked about some ways to approach the budget process that may allow for council input, as in, you know, have staff present a staff budget, because the mayor's budget is very different than, you know, a proposed staff budget, to make sure members of council have an opportunity to see what's there, and also, you know, we talk during the year, and oftentimes things will come up and we'll say, well, you know, we'll bring that back at budget time and make sure that some of those things are also identified and addressed. So I will say that with the senior administration, we are still kind of working through figuring out what that process is going to look like, but this gives you an idea on the legislation. Again, I'll just make a quick push on the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing seminars that they've put out for October. I have sent it to all council, and some of these things are likely topics that will be covered during those 2 days of training. So I know that some of us are already registered, both staff and myself. If there are other members of council who are interested in attending that, please let our clerk and deputy clerk know, and we'll continue to give updates as we kind of figure out what it's going to look like this year. Again, we're just working through a new process, and it's not anything that we all have to work within the legislation. So I would imagine that's it. I would open the floor to questions or comments. Councillor Gagne.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So is the budget going to be prepared by the departments and presented like it was the last few years?
So the departments are absolutely working on budget already. You know, Mr. Barbo has sort of instructed directors to work with departments so that we get department budgets in and can start to have an idea of that. The presenting it the way we have in the past is the part that's a little bit up in the air right now. As Madam Mayor alluded to, there are a few municipalities that have gone to the path of doing a staff budget that gets presented for that kind of discussion process. Because but it has to be labeled as a staff budget. It's not actually the budget. Because once we put the budget in, then that kind of discussion process doesn't exist. You have to propose all your amendments by resolution and things like that. And as Madam Mayor said, there are other ones that you just, that everything is just submitted ahead of time by council. And there are a lot of, I'm not gonna say a lot of, there are different ways to approach it, but yeah, our way of getting together on a 3 nights in a row and going through it is probably not as supported under this framework.
It's not, or we're not sure.
It's not as supported. It's going to look different. Even if council says, hey, we want to all still get together, it's still going to look different than it has been. There are ways that council can still get together and have those discussions. It's just going to be different from what we've done in prior years, though still, yes.
Okay, we're going to get clarification.
So, yeah, and I will say, I think that throughout our time together, I have been pretty consistent in valuing the opinions of everybody around this table. And so that is the crux of the discussion that we're having with staff right now is to find a process that meets the legislation that allows council as a whole, all of us who are elected, all 9 of us, to have that input and understanding of the budget. When it comes back for final approval, it will say the mayor's budget. But I think I've been pretty consistent in my approach to working with all of you and valuing what you bring to the table. And the budget is one of the most important things that we do on a yearly basis. So the discussions with staff right now are how to do this to ensure that council has the level of participation and input that we've had up till now. So that really is the focus of the discussion. And I'd just like to assure you guys of that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rivard?
Thinking through, Madam Mayor, might just be kind of a dumb comment here, but so I know like staff has a lot of valuable input. So yeah, I agree if staff presents their budget, would we still be allowed to have a discussion and kind of amend staff's budget in our normal process? And then, that staff budget gets left somewhere on a table where the mayor can pick it up, quickly change it to the mayor's budget, and then we could still follow these timelines afterwards. Like, I believe there must be a way to do something simple like that. And we still meet, it still is the mayor's budget, but it would still allow for everything to stay fairly normal as what we're used to now in the first 3 years of doing budget. I was just getting the hang of it. So I think that would be a good idea. You could leave a PDF somewhere on a USB and.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way it would work is that staff would, and I don't even want to say about the way it'll work because we haven't figured it out yet. But the whole point is to make sure that that it stays as consistent as possible to the foundations of democracy that we like around here. So, you know, I would just ask that at this point, you guys trust in staff and myself to figure out what we need to do to massage our process to fit the legislation, while making sure that all the voices around the table are hearing. Councilor Featherwright?
Okay, Mayor, if I understand right, is the procedures when we do the budget
Mhm.
is we used to go to do 2, 3 meetings in a row now. Wait, send maybe something to council for approval and then come back to the committee. Is this, or I'm misunderstanding?
I'll
So,
let Ms. Craddock,
so again, there are different ways that can be done. So if we're doing sort of the staff budget for the discussion piece, then it's almost like Councillor Rivard said, you know, we just sort of package it all together and then the mayor presents it afterwards. If we have a solution that, as the mayor says, sort of encompasses a procedure similar to what you've done, that embraces the spirit of what you want, then that would be a time when council and the mayor might look at shortening some of those other timelines in between, so that if you know that by the time the mayor presents the mayor's budget, that we've already more or less got agreement, then we don't need 30 days, 10 days, 15, and then council might shorten those things so that you don't have to wait for them all to elapse. Yeah.
so like I say, it's just a matter of finding the process that works within the legislation, because the intent is to keep the spirit of the budget process while respecting the provincial legislation. Other questions or comments? So we will bring further updates as we work through this. I know that individually the department heads are already working on their pieces. And so, you know, for staff, budget starts as soon as the summer ends. And you know, like the goal is, as we have done for the last couple of years, to get to the point where we have an approved budget, hopefully, at least in principle, before the Christmas break. So. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next item. With that, we have 2 items under Public Works. And I will pass that to Councillor Gandhi, our chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So under item 6.2.1, we have the petition received for paving Salter Street. We've all had our information in our package in regards to the recommendation from Ms. Henning, the Director of Public Works. So I would like to say, do you have anything to add to your report? Okay, so it's pretty clear. So I'll open up for any questions or clarifications by council members.
Oh, I'm sorry, I will have some questions.
Yes, if I have. Go ahead.
In the petition, raised the issue of health concerns, and I don't dispute that, you know, dust may cause health problems, but Salter Street is not the only kind of relatively densely populated rural road that is not paved. You know, in my ward, I can think of Avenue du Lac, which is going to be discussed next, and Caron Road. So there are a lot of people in West Nipissing who do not live on paved roads and have to deal with dust. And I think maybe it's a conversation we need to have. But it's a larger conversation, and it's, you know, do we want to pave more of our roads? And maybe it's an exercise we need to do. We need to maybe cost out how much it would cost to pave a road for perhaps like that section of Salter Street. So, you know, taxpayers can ultimately be part of this discussion. You know, do they want, you know, I don't know, a 10% increase in taxes if we were to pave a whole lot of roads? So, you know, that I think, and again, I'm not jumping, but you know, in the next item, I think there we have roads that are really substandard. And never mind paving, they need an upgrade because they were built years ago, you know, and they are substandard today. So, you know, it's a matter of what, you know, do we pave a road that is perfectly good gravel road? Or do we, you know, upgrade a road that is really substandard that turns to mud, you know, every spring? So, I would be inclined to follow the recommendation of staff and not pave this road.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrer. Madam Mayor?
Good, thank you. I also, when I looked at this, pulled up our roads needs study, which is a great tool when looking at these. And I did notice that the rating of the condition of the road is relatively high in comparison to other roads. It's on the higher end. And that it also had the daily traffic counts as well for that road. And so that I just want to make it clear to residents how projects are selected for 5-year capital. And so if you could explain a little bit just the roads need study as it relates to Salter.
So it looks at the condition of the road. It looks at the traffic counts on the road. Because we are maintaining our gravel roads house, when they have good maintenance, they're typically in better shape. This is one of those roads that it's not too terrible. If we were to look at paving or something like that, there probably would be substantial base work required before doing paving like that. So when you look at the road needs studies, you will see a lot of our asphalt roads, because when we have a gravel road, we can grade it and put some gravel down and do some things to make it better more easily than we can for an asphalt road. And I mean, when you drive around and you look at the roads in Verner or Cache Bay or Sturgeon, you'll see significant damage to a lot of our asphalt roads, which is why we wouldn't recommend expanding asphalt at this time when we can't even catch up with what we need to do in that road needs study.
Okay. Thank you very much. I too agree with the recommendation in the report. Thank you.
Any other comments? Conseiller Lagabi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few years ago, we had a pamphlet that would tell us which roads will be done in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. So if I'd be going for a coffee at a shop or something, people say, well, when is my road going to be done? We look in this. Now, and I also said that it might change if one road deteriorates faster, then that means, but this is kind of the Bible of our roads. So we would be able to answer the resident of you know, what to expect. Maybe 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road is going to be your road if nothing changes. So, and on this issue here, I have to agree with staff. Staff has the big picture of all the roads. We live on rough roads and we think it's the worst one. But if you drive around the municipalities, there's a lot worse than what we go through. So I do understand the need for having asphalt, but you maybe just go around and watch the other road, how bad they are. So we need to catch up, like Mrs. Hennig said, we need to catch up on our road. We've done great as far as years ago, it was 1.5 million we'd invest in the roads, and now we're over $5 million. So it's progressing. Thank you.
Conseiller Ferrer?
Thank you, through you. Let's ask one question, do we pave new roads? Do we have every year, do we say, oh, we'll allow a certain amount of money and say pave a road that has never been shown?
No, not for sure.
And I mean, in this term, we haven't?
No, we have not paved
Any new roads? Okay.
any new roads that weren't previously paved.
Thank you.
We'll see you go.
Thank you through. Yeah, that's kind of, I mentioned a couple times. I believe the report's eventually going to come, but I had requested like a report for a cost analysis from a gravel road to a either hard surface or paved. So then maybe, you know, as a council strategic discussions, kind of like what you just mentioned, you'd be able to say, hey, our grader's driving on 6 kilometers of paved road to get to a kilometer of gravel to grade, and then has to drive on 6 kilometers of paved road, you know, to try and strategize. But when you mentioned the comment earlier about the 10% to pave new roads, I think we would need 10% increase just to maintain the roads we currently have, even, right? As sad as it is, it's fallen so far behind. So I think you'd be looking at 20%. But otherwise, the often what I'm hearing with these gravel roads is the dust. It's very rarely, you know, the actual potholes or whatnot, because they're graded well. I wonder if we just look at the option of adding, like, I'm not speaking about Avenue out there, that's just salted, but a lot of the roads in my ward anyways, it's talking regarding the dust. So maybe the most cost efficient thing is we look at dusting twice throughout the season. Like, I get the cost will be higher, but that would be much less than having to pave all these roads as well. Right, so that would be another option that I'd like to see, the cost of increasing service that way. Because otherwise, we're just going to continue to see same roads come back with the same dust problems. And if it's the health, if it's the breathing, that they can't enjoy their outdoor space, it'd be interesting just to know, you know, what that would cost throughout a municipality to maybe, you know, roll that out twice as you said. Because now what we put in July is irrelevant. It's roads now. And so if we get another warm September like we do some years, which it looks like we're having, maybe dusty, and I've already seen all the complaints coming in or the requests for service, and there's not much I can say. It's not paved. We don't have calcium to spray. So that's just something I'd like to suggest.
Thank you. We'll see you go. Madam Mayor.
Well, I would just, as a follow-up to that, do you know what are the cost of our total calcium application? And I know you probably don't have that in front of you because it wasn't a question that was prepared, but how much we would spend on calcium in a single year as a municipality, because we cut out just a couple of roads and saved $28,000.
I believe we're spending, Lisa may be able to correct me, but I think it's in the over $400,000 range for the one application.
Okay, and we know that $200,000 is a 1% increase on our taxes, or 220. So that just kind of, like, the quick math of what that an additional calcium application would cost as far as an increase in service levels. So, that close?
Yep, 400,000 is the number.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other questions or comments? We'll see you, Bristol.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I think we invest through our staff and whoever else is part of this, the roads study, and we use that to determine how we address roads when it comes to budget time, and how we assess the worst of the worst and try to get those up to par before we go further down the list. And if this isn't identified as a road for the structure of the road that needs significant investment, I think it wouldn't be fair to our own process if we're going to start to jump around on the list to pick things because petitions come in. I understand the community members who live on the road, you know, these aspects of it that they're not happy with. Yeah, I always think in other areas too, we can't take the worst of the worst and build on that. It's been a very dry summer for most of the year. We've seen droughts across the province, and I don't think this year is the standard year to look at in terms of the best on calcium roads that receive that treatment. If it was more of a regular year, you'd probably see a little bit less in terms of those asks coming forward, because there'd be a little bit more, natural water on those roads that would keep some of that dust down. So I agree with the recommendation from staff. It's been put forward.
See you, Bristol. Any other questions, comments? No? So I think everybody's in agreement. And we have all, we're good with that. Any objections? Good. Okay. Thank you. Move on to the next item, which is item 6.2.2, sorry, road upgrades to Avenue du Lac. So I'll just pass it to the ascending for just a quick review. We've looked at the report. Any
So-
comments on that one?
This is a road that we were already aware of the condition of the road, and it is currently on our capital plan.
Okay. So we'll see if I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask permission to have some pictures of the road, if I may.
Okay, but
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Avenue du Lac, is about 3.5 kilometers runs from Laurier Road. Not too far from Highway 64, right to the end of the road. It was built originally in the 60s, I believe, to service some cottages. Of course, there's been tremendous growth there. It serviced cottages on the north shore of Lake Nipissing, which are now all year round houses. The road was built basically on top of this field. And that's never really been upgraded in about since it was built 60 years ago. You'll see from the pictures that every spring that road turns to mud. And you know, I was a bit shocked when I went there the first time, when I was called there to have a look. I'd never seen myself a road that was such bad condition, and that goes on from March until well into April. I found it to be also extremely dangerous. I don't think it would be safe for anyone of any age to be walking on that road during that time. It has, I think, 63 residences. It has 3 tourist operators, and has, a fair bit of traffic on it. I just think that these people deserve a decent road. It's probably too low. I'm not a roads expert. I'm sure some of you know more about roads than I do. I'm looking at Councillor Pellerin right now. So I think it's too low. In the 2 years where we had very high water levels, last 7 or 8 years, there were sections of that road that were a washout and were flooded. I'd like to ask Ms. Henning, through you, Mr. Chair. You said it's in the 5-year capital plan. Where in the capital plan is it? And do you have a cost estimate for the drainage work that is proposed in the 5-year capital plan?
Cost estimate for the drainage work on this one, and we're looking at probably between $200,000 and $300,000 for drainage work. We currently have it scheduled for 2029, but we can certainly look at moving that forward. This isn't, unfortunately, like the other road, it's not the only road in the municipality where it's a very, small cottage road and has grown in population and is in need of some upgrades. So if council wishes for us to move this further ahead, we certainly can.
And from speaking to other people about this, that I'm not sure that just drainage work is going to resolve the problem. Are we entirely sure that just simple drainage work will solve this problem?
No, there's
It's low.
There's likely extensive base work required on this road. So we would be looking at brushing. We typically brush and ditch, and then we do granular, and prior to doing granular though, we would likely do some investigation on this road and see what's there for base and if we're gonna look at costing out some base work, but we would be looking at a significant cost to do that for a road of this length.
Thank you.
Thank you, Conseil Ferret. Any other questions, comments? Conseil Lagavie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment, but see the discussion we had on that road, if we would have that booklet that would tell us what's the next 5 years or the next 10 years, which road is going, we probably wouldn't have had that discussion or just moving it forward. Because it's when you go talk to people, when is my road going to be done? So I think it would be a very important tool for us to have like we had before. So they know exactly, well, they expect to have it in 2027 or 26, 29. So they have, you have something to tell them that could be concrete if that road was worse, that it moves ahead, but you know, so you'd have an idea what to answer.
Thank you, Conseil Lagavie. I'll just make a comment. We do have the road need study that identifies which road, so you can look that in that report.
Mhm.
And it's identified the next 5 year, here are the roads that needs to be repaired. It's not some like small report, like it might be handy for us to know which roads are next year, which roads in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years.
Yeah.
That might be helpful to try to put them together and maybe try to realign maybe some of the work that needs to be done. Yes, Madam Mayor.
I would think that in order just to make a strategic decision on this particular issue, it would be a budget issue. I'm sure that Ms. Henning already has her recommended projects for 2026 laid out, because as I said, our senior staff team is working on developing their budgets right now. My recommendation at this point would be to get the costing on how to do that, but understand that, as a council, if we chose to move that to either 2026 or 2027, that does mean that another project that has been identified as high needs within the municipality will need to be deferred. So it is absolutely something we can do to direct staff to change priority. But I wouldn't want to commit to anything until we see what we'd have to knock off, because there could be other very critical projects already planned, and as we all know, we have a limited budget as far as what we have every year to invest into capital and into roads. So, if we choose to do one, it means that we're choosing not to do another. So I don't know if that's possible as part of our budget discussions, just to provide what the costing. Please provide what your recommendations are, because I'm sure you have your projects picked for 2026 already. But if you could include that as a separate line, at least we know what the additional cost is. And what if there's something that is, we would feel comfortable moving off 2026 and swapping places. I guess that would probably, in my opinion, that would be the best way to kind of deal with it, because that's not, I don't think it's a decision that we can make outside the context of the other capital priorities.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Conseil Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Gagné. Having work at the area of the roads and ditches. That road is firstly almost to the lake level, so I don't think that brushing and ditching is going to do too much. I think we should change our mind a little bit and maybe just a good strip of gravel, a big gravel in the middle, would fix the mud for in the spring. When we did the north-south, our farmers were saying it's not the ditching we need, it's gravel. So in that instant, I think it's the same thing, and I'm gonna go so far as saying it's improving, the roads are improving because we have our grade operators trained last year. We've seen a difference in the crowning of our roads. I've had people that don't know anything about roads come to me and say, geez, our roads will last a lot longer and they're more round. Yeah, that's the way they're supposed to be, even a little bit more. And if we all incorporate that, we're gonna save a bunch of money, and that's my suggestion anyway for now. The strip of a gravel to fix the temporarily.
Thank you, Councilor Pellerin. Any other questions or comment? Councilor Resto?
That's for you, Mr. Chair. Just, again, I don't know a lot about roads either, so taking recommendations from our experts is what helps me in the decision-making process, but I do agree with Madam Mayor. This is definitely something that you need to look at in the staff budget. Strong neighbors budget coming up, but maybe something to consider too in the costing process. I know in other areas across the municipality, we've looked at phased approaches to roads, and if it's one extremely long road, and I'll use Doke's Road as an example, we've done it in phases over a couple of years. So within a couple of years, we get to that end goal, but it doesn't put a huge, cost in one particular budget year. So just something to keep in mind. Maybe we can look at that as an option to see if we can do it in 2 or 3 sections over a couple of years to get to where we want to be, but to also maintain some of the other roads within the municipality as well. But I definitely think it's something for budget. I can't be able to decide that this evening. My thoughts.
Thank you, Councilor Resto. Other questions or comments? Okay, so Councilor,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is that an option, what Councillor Pellerin suggested to help alleviate the problem for next spring to put a layer of egg gravel on it?
well, I think, Ms. Henning, that you've written down as a consideration, you will look at your budget to see
Something that-
possibly if there's something that can be done short term, but it's gonna have to come back to budget for us to decide which roads we need to really upgrade, and if we want to move that priority road from 2029 in our needs assessment road and then to put it earlier, or to kind of do a bit of work now and maybe like Councilor Restoul, I like his idea. Maybe we do a quarter or a third and we do it in a span of 3 years, but it all depends on budget and whether the road needs assessment was shared with us and the recommendation that will come back from Ms. Henning in regards to the public works road needs. Everybody in agreement with that? We're good? Thank you very much. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'll just take a quick break. I know many of the people in our gallery were here for that. If you do want to leave, we'll let you do that. If you'd like to stay, you're more than welcome. It's always exciting around here, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 6.3, which is our Community Services Committee. And with that, I'll pass the floor to our chair, Councillor Rivard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I just saw Justin Trudeau on the list of petitions, so I was trying to show you. Can't be these. So, move on to community services. We're gonna speak about the land sales reserve. I brought this, that I'd like to have a discussion regarding the lands reserve. Would I just pass that over to you, Ms. Kodak, or would I just open the floor to discuss the numbers that were presented here? How would you like to go about?
I don't really have anything more to add to the memo, so I'll let you.
Great, so yeah, so my idea when I had requested this as an agenda item was that we could maybe open up the discussion, before budget. So that we would be aware as council how much money we have over the first 3 years of claiming some land as surplus and selling off a bit of land. And then maybe if there's strategic discussion that council would like to have as to how the money could be allocated or plan for in the future. So I'll open up the floor to any questions, comments, or any ideas brought forward. Or Councilor Gani?
Thank you, Councilor Dubois. I have a few questions. The first one is that there's money not in the budget that weren't transferred to reserve. So I did the calculation. There's $233,579 that money is where? I'm just wondering why it's not on reserve transfer.
Yeah, so the first properties in 2023 were properties that were sold prior to the policy and the reserve being implemented. So that's why those small ones in 2023 were not included. They were included as land that was sold, but they weren't, we didn't bring the policy in until we were looking at that Cache Bay Trailer Park. So it did come later. And then the difference on the sale price to the reserve transfer is impacted by a few things. So one is if we've incurred costs in order to get to the sale. So, you know, in selling the Cache Bay Trailer Park, there was advertising, there was land costs and things like that. And then the other part is, and this is impacting Scouts Island, is the land generally, and road allowances and things like that don't, but that the land otherwise generally has a book value already. And so when we dispose of land, we have to take a look at what the book value is. And so you get your sale price, you deduct your expenses, you deduct the book value of the land, and what's left is the surplus that gets transferred to reserve. And in the case of Scouts Island, it actually had a book value of higher than what we sold it for. And so we've actually, on paper, even though you have the $175,000 in your pocket, on paper, it is actually going to sort of look like a loss on disposition for that piece of property for accounting purposes. It had a book value of $210,000. Now, with municipalities prior to 2010, they didn't keep track of any of this stuff. And in 2010, actually prior to 2010, but 2010 was sort of the drop dead date. The accounting rules changed and the standards changed, as well as your budgeting rules changed, so that municipalities had to go and put all their assets on their books and actually account for their assets. They didn't have to account for their assets before. And so in accounting for equipment and various things, we had original purchase invoices, we had a variety of things. Sometimes with land we did as well. And sometimes with land, it was at the assessed value in 2010. And that's how this one came in with an assessed value in 2010. So yeah, because the book value was higher than our sale price, there was no surplus. It actually sits as a loss disposition in our financial records instead.
Yeah, I understand that, but where's the money?
So the money
It doesn't disappear because.
So what goes is you have assets. So we have cash in the bank, but land asset that is gone. So it's the cash is in the bank, but rather than going bank reserve, it's going bank land, the asset land. So you're offsetting the two against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trading asset for asset.
I do understand, but it's a negative 175 for Scout Island, right? Or it's actually it's negative 210 if the book value was 210.
It was 210. Yeah, and we had 175, and so then we've got a loss on our financials of the difference between the 175 and the 210.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why. I understand that part.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why it's not presented in the.
Because there was nothing left to transfer to the reserve.
Well, actually, we're negative $50,000, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and so it didn't come out of the reserve that way. Like, yeah, no, I didn't. It just sits as a loss and disposition, not, oh, we need to take this money out of the reserve for it.
Okay, so we're not getting that money in reserve at all then?
No.
That's what you're saying, okay. And what about the 3 first properties in 2023? Where is that money?
So
Where did it go actually? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so in 2023, prior to this coming in, it just was part of our revenue. Again, the surplus portion, so the amount less the cost would have been part of our revenue, and it would have just gone into our general reserve at the end.
Okay, so it went into the reserve for other projects.
Just into the general reserve, yeah.
And whatever was before 2023, that's the way that
Correct.
was
Yeah.
was handled or placed. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, yeah, so that 175 went into the general reserve as well.
No.
So why would we sell it if we just lost money? Is that, am I understanding this correctly? Well, maybe I'm just way off, but I don't seem to understand that. So if we sold it for 175, did that 175 go to a project or into general reserve or into an operation budget, capital budget, or?
No, we had a land asset on our books, and the land asset went away and money came in, but there was nothing left to go to reserve.
Counselor Farrell, looks like
So I'm having trouble understanding this one too. I'm sorry. So he sold it for 175,000. Can we not, and we have the cash in the bank, can we not decide that we're gonna use that 175 minus maybe, our costs for having sold it? We're left with 170,000 in the bank. Can't we use this money in, let's say, on the Goulart Park baseball field?
So from an accounting process, I must account for the land, the book value of the land that was on our books. So from an accounting process, I must account for both of that. And even if we were going to get really creative in some way and say it's that the 175 is not actually land, it's some bonusing something or other, then I'm going to have to write off the land, and we end up with rather than having a $35,000 loss in disposition, we have the full 210 loss in disposition. Like for accounting, I have to account for the book value that was there in land.
But
I have to, yeah.
can we use the 175,000?
It's not in the
Theoretically,
reserve.
can
I can't put it in the
use
reserve.
that money for the baseball park?
No. It's been used to account for the land itself.
a lot of hands coming up. So we'll start with Counselor Pellerin and we'll get to them all.
Okay, so way back, I guess we borrowed against the property. No way.
Not as that there was there wasn't a mortgage against the property like that, but it was sitting on our balance sheet. So, and then which then forms part of your retained earnings and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to consider it that way, yeah, that money was kind of locked up. It was locked up asset. Yes. Yeah.
And my next question is, how many other properties is set up that way, that we own?
Oh, all of our properties should be set up that way. They all have different values though, right? So, I mean, a lot of our property might be valued at $40,000, and the clerk is saying, well, we're just going to cut out this section and we're going to get $40,000 for this one section. And so then it's only a portion of the whole 40,000 and things like that. But I guess all of our land that we're aware of has a value assigned to it and is in our books of value. A lot of our land is just vacant land and doesn't have a lot of value assigned to it. This one did.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how come just this one? Part of these, how come just this one hasn't? And let's say like the information center.
Oh, it will have, yeah.
Would it be the same setup?
So the information center will have a cost attached to it. It will probably will be a much more significant cost as well, because when in 2010, when they assigned costs, like I said, if we had a grader, that we had the purchase invoice for a grader with land, if we had a purchase invoice for land, otherwise it was assessed by two things: MPAC's assessment of the property in 2010, and if we had any insurance value on the building. And so the building's got to stay separate from land as well. And so, but this was based on a 2010 assessment from MPAC based on what the property with the structures on was worth in 2010. And that's how most of our land is assessed.
Keep going around a bit here. Mayor.
I think I'm getting close on this one. So because Scouts Island actually had development and was used as a facility, being Scouts Island, the value would have been higher because it was actually used as a community recreation asset.
Mhm.
Is that correct? Am I getting close to being able to explain this? Now, when the value was assigned in 2010, is there any mechanism within these accounting practices for depreciation of the built structures on those properties because the land itself, as we know from every other, like when we look at the vacant lands that we have transferred, there's some that were dollar for dollar. So that there was $0 value assigned to them or whatever. So is there anything in the accounting standards that make up for the depreciation of the actual built assets? So in the case of Scouts Island, the structure that was there where it may have had some residual value in 2010 because it was in 15 years better condition than it was when we sold it. Clearly, and the information center, because this is going to be a big one for us as well. If we're looking at whatever the book value was in 2010, the building was 15 years newer in 2010. And so we'll actually, we're gonna sell this piece of property and not actually see any real benefit from it. The money still has to go somewhere. This is, I think, where council's not understanding.
So buildings,
If $1 million comes in from the information center, where does that $1 million go?
so buildings absolutely do depreciate. And so the book value is the depreciated value for buildings. Land doesn't depreciate. If you're accounting, you'd be laughing now because that's an accountant joke, but I do understand that you're not laughing about land not depreciating. Thank you for the chuckle. But yes, buildings absolutely do depreciate. I'm not sure what, I'd have to go back and see what the info center is on our books for. But yes, you have land value, you have building values, and buildings do depreciate, and that's where you get your net book value from those pieces, yes.
But where does the money go?
It's in our bank. It's in our bank. But the thing, I can't put it in the reserve because I have an asset. And so if I had, so like I said, some of these ones that just go dollar for dollar, it's because
Would you, Mr. Marble was ready to.
No, I think that Elisa is explaining it. Let me see if I can explain it with you, Elisa, and see if I'm anywhere close. I mean, so there's two aspects to accounting, right? There's an income statement, or in our case, our operating statements, and then there's a balance sheet. And so since 2010, we've had to account for our assets, and so, and our liabilities, and then and so what happens is that when we sell an asset, we're converting it to cash. And if there's a book value on that asset that is greater than what we sold it for, then we have to take a loss. We convert the 175 to cash, but the remainder goes, it goes as a loss against in the asset. So there's a net loss. But so it's converted to cash. So where does the money go? It's received in the year that it's received. But from an accounting perspective, as Elisa is saying, it basically gets converted to cash on the balance sheet. And and technically there's a loss that you have to incur in the year that you do the transaction. Elisa, am I any close to that or what?
that's correct.
Okay. So it's converting this for what you were able to get for it. Now, to go back 15 years and talk about whether properties were overvalued, having the benefit of hindsight, knowing that we might be selling them, of course, we might have wanted to do a little bit more work on trying to get those asset values low and then have them depreciate from a lower standard. But obviously, in this case, somebody deemed that that was a very valuable property as a starting point. So I don't know if that helps, but just thought I would.
No, I still have a question, but I'll let other people ask first. I did see Councilor Restal and Councilor Saley had your hands up first. Are you good now? Councilor Restal, just long ago.
Yeah, it's for you. I'm still confused on the money part. Like, we got a check for 175,000. I understand the accounting part, but is that 175,000 just doesn't disappear? I know there's accounting standards, but the funds have to be somewhere. And maybe we can talk offline and educate me more. I'm stuck on that. I don't share the money. It's gone. My question is, and we have other things we're talking about tonight. We've talked a couple things we're going to be talking about tonight. How does that come into effect, or how does that balance against when we're getting properties appraised? Because we got this appraised, it came in at 175. We got a bid of 175. We sold it, but there's where does this book value come in? Because I have a hard time selling properties for the municipality if we're getting an appraised value but our book value is here, then why are we selling?
Mhm.
Why not just hold on to it and wait until depreciation comes down and it gets a little bit better where we can sell it profit? Because if I'm understanding this correctly, we sold this property and we lost $55,000. So when we're asking for appraisals, where does that book value come in? And is that where we should be starting regardless of what the appraisal is? Because I don't think it's effective for us to sell property and lose money.
Yeah, so,
I don't understand it, right? But
so, you know, do you start at the book value cost or do you start at the appraisal cost? It depends on what you're doing and why you're doing it. You know, so the disposition of Scouts Island, we had an appraisal, we set it at the appraisal. The appraisal says that's what the property is worth now. You know, regardless of what the book value is, that's what the property is worth now, is the 135. You know, you could have put it out for 210, but the appraisal said it's not worth the 210. The philosophy on whether council wants to look at, hey, what are the book value of all these things? As you can see, a lot of times our land doesn't have a significant book value to it. And again, the land versus buildings depreciate, land doesn't depreciate. So whether council wants to say, hey, when we're looking at stuff, we also want to see what the book value is on this before we even make a decision. You know, that's certainly something we can, you know, we can include going forward on stuff, is that we, you know, track down what the book value is on properties prior to disposition. You know, you still may have some other reasons on why you want to dispose of property, and that you want to, you know, reduce overall what your property holdings are. You want to reduce future liability and costs connected to properties. This it's a paper loss on this case, but what you're missing is, yes, you don't have it in reserve for future projects. Your reserve for future projects. But it really is, you know, if council would like to see those net book values on other properties as we go forward, we can absolutely sort of bring that with the appraisals when we're looking at appraisals. Some of the ones like the unopened road allowances, actually, that's why though you see some of them at the full cost going across, it's because our unopened road allowances don't have any cost value assigned to them. Roads have cost value assigned to them. Properties with roll numbers have cost values assigned to them. Unopened road allowances don't have any cost value assigned to them, which is when you see the full amount transfer over to reserve.
Thank you. Madam Mayor.
Okay, so does that explain the 69 Waterfront Drive? So 69 Waterfront was one of the properties that vested.
Yep.
Vested and then sold to a neighboring property owner. So because that had a roll number associated with it, it would have had a book value. Is
Yes,
that why the difference is
Yeah.
like, so we sold it for 15 and we're only showing 2,700?
yes.
And so it's the same, but I think we're all still confused about where that money is and why we can't spend it. Like that's the whole, like that's where you're losing us, is that the money came in, it's somewhere.
That's what they.
So who gets to spend that money and what do they get to spend it on?
So I said, this is where I need to like do a diagram with, like, you know, lines of, the money is, no one gets to spend the money because the money came into the bank, but it was all assigned to the fact that we had it's sort of the reverse of buying a grader. You know, if I'm buying a grader, I put money out and I put a grader onto my asset. This we're just doing in reverse. And so it's not that it's the money is there. The money is it's into the bank account. What it doesn't hit is it doesn't hit your reserve because it all was consumed by the asset itself.
Can we not transfer it to the reserve?
No,
Why?
because I say, from an accounting purposes, I have to account for the disposition of that asset from our balance sheet. And so in doing that, it generates a loss. There's no surplus left to put to reserve. In transferring the asset off of our balance sheet, because we no longer own it, we can't say, hey, I've got, you know, $300 million worth of assets. I have $300 million of assets, less 200,000. So we have to show that disposition. And then we have this loss kind of created. I said, if we got really creative, and I hope my auditors aren't listening, if I got really creative, the only thing you're gonna do is you're gonna generate a $210,000 loss. You know, so there isn't a way to take it when the book value, we have to dispose of the book value.
Okay, we'll just go to Council Snow. It looks like he's got an answer.
I don't have an answer. I have a simple mind of my own that I think in my mind, the way I'm seeing it is we sell a property like 69 waterfront for 15,000. In my mind, I know we don't owe, however, it kind of means the land asset, we still technically owe a certain portion, and what we wrote off, the remainder is 2,774. That can go in reserve. The other one goes into surplus or wherever. That takes care of 69 waterfront. Then the following one, which is part lot 13 concession, we sold for 15. We were able to get 8,000. The 7,000 went into surplus to take care of that. I know it's not that we owed it, but to take care of however you were explaining the land asset or whatever it is, to satisfy that portion, let's say, of the accounting portion. Is that kind of sort of?
Except that if there's no part of it's coming in out of
If you would have
surplus.
said yes, we would all be done.
Yeah. Okay.
So I may have like, you know, because the reason I brought this forward wasn't for this. I get that this is important here. Like,
Yeah.
I still don't understand, because for me, if I own a second property, I'm not selling it to get nothing. You know, I'm not just gonna sell my property, so I don't understand. It'll take me a little bit, so maybe the diagram you speak of, if it's possible, at a future meeting, but the idea for this meeting was, I just wanted to bring it forward as like, you know, there's 850,000 out here on the books that's usable, from what I hear, so I just wanted to open up the discussion, like, you know, of what we think we could aim for with the mayor's budget here coming up in the next couple months, next couple weeks. So I don't know if you guys are okay that we kind of put this on a back burner until we can try, because I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna understand based off of what's this going on here, but Miss Nichols seems to have.
Thank you. Through you. I have a really good example. I think I understand it. It's like a will. You have all the assets listed and say there's a ring and you sell it for less than what it's worth. You're technically losing money. Is that?
Mhm.
Okay. Does that make sense? That's a horrible example, I think, but
So why would you sell the ring?
exactly. But sometimes you need to because you don't want it to get stolen. It kind of makes. Okay, I'm not.
Okay,
Wow. I had another question, so explain to me Cashby Park. So it's
Yeah.
worth nothing,
Right.
so we sold it for 761, with expenses, we were able to transfer 741.
Mm-hmm.
So how come there was no, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, how come there's no book value on that?
So there was, it's just, it was. It was much larger.
I can say that for Academy.
Sorry, excuse me, just for the record, to all of our residents, that was Mr. And it's nothing to entertain him. We don't think it's funny at all.
In general, a lot of our land is not on our books at a significant value, and Castaway Trailer Park was one of those. And then we also, the initial property was a bigger property. We were actually just selling a chunk of the property. We retained some of the property, so it's then prorated as far as what the original role was to what we actually brought out. And yes, there was not a lot of value assigned to that property. That's all that it was. There was not a lot of value assigned to that property. Most of our stuff doesn't have a lot of value assigned to it, to our land and structures.
Okay, so just one more question. So what happens to all of the money? So is this the same? So when we sell an asset, let's say we declare an old fire truck surplus and we get 150,000 for that. The same thing would happen if as long as the book value in it. So, but where is all this money? So there's 233,579 is what Councillor Gagne said. I know some of that is costs on, so let's say it's 230,000. Where is the money and who gets to spend it?
It's in your bank, but it's not in the dedicated reserve.
I know, but how do you get it out of that bank to spend it?
So then it is just cash balances that we're carrying. It's just
Okay,
cash balances. So, you set your budget, you can reduce what a tax liability is by transferring stuff from reserve. This is not in reserve. It is just part of it is just an asset that, like, it is just cash balances.
so how does it get used up? Because all I can see is money going in. How does money come out? I'm really trying.
That's why I'm suggesting maybe we table this because
Yes.
it's next to impossible. I don't think, I see a lot of confused faces. So
Well,
there's nothing wrong, Mr. Barbo.
Well, it's fun to listen to. Businesses or municipalities or corporations and entities, and because they're conducting themselves, they have to conduct themselves with financial statements. And so humans, like us, other than having to declare capital gains and so on, to the point about cottages and stuff, but humans don't necessarily have those same standards. So when you sell something, you've already paid for it. You don't care about the depreciation. You got 150. You don't have to account for the fact that it might still have a value, whatever. You don't have to do that. But we have to do that as municipalities. Municipalities have to follow accounting standards. They call them GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Practices, or PSAB, Public Sector Accounting Standards, or Accounting Board. And so what she's saying is that if something has a value and you sell it, and there was a value to it on our books, all we can do is declare the net, regardless of whatever. So then the cash we receive is a cash in hand, but it's a global fund. So it's not like it goes away. It's just that it might actually, from an accounting perspective, be a negative or a plus. But that cash in the bank is used for a variety of other things as well. So there's cash flow health, which is your ability to pay your bills. There's income statements, which is slightly different, and then there's the balance sheet. But that is a lesson as to why Elisa Craddock went to school, and likes that kind of thing, and is a special character.
Thank you, Mr. Barbo. So at this point, I think from what I can gather is we would all like to see this book value, what we would have if we do move forward with selling any assets in the future. Because I think we were all excited with $175,000 you could spend somewhere. But it seems like there's more to it. And we will move into recess. I can do that in the middle of a night.
yes, we can.
Yeah, and
Okay.
let's make sure that we give Elisa enough time to get out of here first.
Madam Clerk, who is the god of all things procedure, says that you should pass the chair back to me. I'll do the recess, and when we open.
Yeah, because we didn't actually get to the meat of this.
I know.
So
I know.
I'll pass the chair back to you, Madam.
Okay, well, thank you. And I need a mover and a seconder for a brief recess. Councillor Restool, Councillor St. Louis.
Is moved by Councillor Restool and seconded by Councillor St. Louis. At approximately 8:02 PM, a motion was tabled for a 10-minute recess.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're just returning from a brief recess. We're still in committee of the whole at 6.3 community services, and I'll pass the chair back to Councillor Robart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just so we don't get back on that track, I'd like to pitch kind of what my idea was when I know I should let the go around the table, so I won't give ideas, but the idea with this was kind of, with budget coming, if there'd be any sort of project or anything that we think would be value added to the community, things that we have always wanted to do, but maybe the funds were never there, right? So like I'm thinking the Cache Bay Hall and Cache Bay to allocate, you'd allocate a certain amount to that to make sure it will be spent in that regard. Verner, there's the Verner Water, the Verner Municipal Building. That's just something that comes to mind. Monetville, I believe there was like that fire hall that had some issues there, a quick fix there, and we can start doing things in all these municipalities with this fund that we ended up disposing of assets in the municipality, and maybe that's something that we'd like to do with it is not necessarily get something new, but just ensure that we're putting it in areas that are strategic to tackle some issues that we know are there, but we just don't really know how to fund it without a tax base, right? So that's just some ideas I had there. Sturgeon Falls, obviously there's the pool, there's Goulart Park, there's we had spoken, I remember, at a recreation committee about like the Cache Bay trails or the museum trails. There was all sorts of stuff discussed. So I just wanted to open that up as kind of a discussion. What people would think would be reasonable to allocate maybe to every smaller municipality and something elsewhere, and try and get the conversation going there. Or else the money will just stay there and we have a way of, or an idea of how to spend it. So I'd like to open the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to make sure, we have $876,821. And does that account for the accounting taxes? Does that count, like, there's no additional taxes or money that?
No.
So that's the full amount
Yes.
that we can take. So that was an accounting joke? That was an accounting. Just to make sure. I think the idea is, Mr. Chair, that we do take that money and try to allocate it to fit the needs of the community, since they are municipal assets that were sold off, to actually try to reinvest in hopefully current infrastructure that we don't have. So I'd like to listen to people's idea to see what their needs are. So on. So thank you very much. That's it.
Did everyone like my ideas? I put a little bit of thought into this first. Obviously, the money aspect itself isn't. I didn't think like, it has to be 100K to Cache Bay and 200K to Verner for the water or the municipal building. But I just like to see where we actually come to a consensus of like, yes, this will be allocated there. So when we're ready to move forward with those projects, we can have some money there. It's not just a clear exit. Councillor St-Louis.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I think you have a great idea. So you don't feel like you're not having a good idea. I think we still need to be a little careful that we don't want to take all the money right now and spread it everywhere. However, my personal opinion is, we talked about it a while ago, but 6.3.3, the baseball field tender, which will be coming up. Apparently it's a little over budget, then that might be somewhere where we can definitely start looking at the Goulart Park project that has been waiting for the last 15 years or 10 years, and we can finally move forward with it.
I don't know how we would be able to go forward with this, because obviously you wouldn't just do it right here as, simple, like Councillor St. Louis said, but, say if someone has the idea for the Monetville Fire Hall, then I guess how would we go about that? We would present an agenda request as we would like to maybe propose to council to remove, say, $20,000 from the reserve fund to complete the work that's, I know Madam Mayor and Councillor Ferrand brought this up a few times, right? So would that be a way that we could go about doing it?
So for instance, in the Monetville Community Center, there's a need for an exhaust fan and fire suppression system for the commercial kitchen. So But I don't know what the process would be to, I mean, we would have to ask our experts at the table, Mr. Barbeau, or what process could be used to identify strategic projects that council would like to undertake with some of the reserves.
Or is that a question? So if you're asking me what.
Through
any
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. It's any process that you want to have. It's what do you want to do with that excess, or, the net proceeds from the sales of assets and where you want to go. If you want to have a short-term win and start looking at small projects and enhance small projects, I suppose you can do it that way. You could do what Councillor Revard is recommending with respect to having some sort of a formula for allocating assets and distributing it amongst the awards. That's a council decision. I guess I'll venture into politics a bit and say it's a little parochial. I think that from my perspective, the more strategic way is to really look at where and that was, I think, the purpose that in council's term plan is to look at where we want to go in the future and direct our resources that way versus on a broader scale, as opposed to these one-ofs to satisfy one group or another. But where are you going as a strategic area, and is this additional money help you invest it that way? But I mean, council can do whatever they want with the money, with the net proceeds. It's a council decision.
Thank you, Councillor Rose.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I like the idea of, reinvesting funds that we've raised, say through disposition of properties. For myself, I think, like the CEO mentioned, I think it's probably an important piece to look at our term plan and see some of the things that we wanted to achieve. We're moving into our final year of our term, couple of months starting, and we also have our budget processes coming up as soon as the staff provides a budget first for us to look at. But I think this gives us another area that we go and look at in terms of fiscal opportunities to look at some of those things that we need. And it doesn't all just necessarily have to be within our term plan. We also have heard things over the years from different groups, and we've seen different areas that can use supports. Some are smaller, some are bigger. But I think if we can get a good picture of everything, I'm a visual guy. So to see stuff and here's what we said we'd like to do, here's what we needed to do or that we need to do, and here's where our budgets are for the different areas in terms of community services or capital or equipment or whatnot. And just to get a big picture on what do we have, where can we save? Because the other thing I'm thinking too, and maybe I'm wrong, but when we're going into budget, we're going to see likely some increases to budget, right? And what we always try to do before the mayor approves our budget this year is to see where we can save the taxpayer, right? So if we have this year and it can save a little bit on certain areas, because I know we've been working hard, and sometimes it means that there's tax increases, but areas like roads and whatnot, we want to raise that base a little bit so we can do some of the things like the taxpayers who are in the room with us today would like us to, to knock off the list. So I don't say that to get to 0% increase, because I don't think that's the way to go, because next year we won't have this and we'll be, even further behind the 8 ball. But all that to say is I'd feel comfortable seeing everything, seeing what we have in terms of our existing budgets that are coming forward, even without increases, just to see what's allocated to each of the areas. We have this as another fiscal piece we can use. Look at our term plan, look at some of those needs within all of the areas of the municipality and decide from there. And I don't want it to sound like I'm kind of sitting on the fence and I don't want to decide, but I think there's lots of needs, right? And how can we be most effective in spending, a bit of a windfall here in terms of some of the things that we've sold off over the years.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. As you were speaking, it kind of made me think, like, when we get that capital list at budget, it'd be nice to almost have an entire section that just says
Optional.
optional risk, which we will know as we have this amount. And then we can have the strategic discussion of like, yeah, this would be nice, but this is nice and a little more of a priority. Or, you know, and then we can maybe discuss at that point how we go. I know that's pretty staff intensive, because then we would kind of need quotes or estimates on tons of different projects, right? From understanding, but maybe we'd have to try and get our wish list sooner than later. I feel like if we're talking Cathway Hall, Manettville, like what would it require, right? Anything in field or burner. Mr. Barbo?
Well, I mean, we're maybe digressing a little bit onto a budget discussion, but you know, I will just say this in my, you know, parting shots are every municipality has bigger needs than what the money they have available. And so the challenge that councils have and have always have and will continue to have is to prioritize. If you ask staff to bring a budget, they're going to bring a budget that wants to keep the place afloat, that wants to enhance service. But really, I think that you know, we're going to probably not be looking at what you look at in terms of added value issues, which are really feel good and important to our community, but things such as infrastructure and fixing our arenas and fixing this and that. So once we're done proposing all of those, unfortunately, the bad news for all of you is that there's not a lot of money left over. And so it's a matter of maybe paring that down, adding a few little nuggets. But they're really, you know, for the public, and this West Nipissing is no different than anywhere else. There's not a lot of extra money for that kind of enhancement. There is that kind of money if you're in Vaughan or in you know, the GTA that's growing at percentages far greater than Northern Ontario. And then they could add value, but we're into the sustainability and trying to provide safe roads and add some gravel on Avenue du Lac. You know, you have one conversation that way. Now you're talking about, you know, a bunch of nice to have projects. So we're going to propose what we can with the money that we have. And we do that all of the time. To Elisa's point, when we were talking about the budget, you know, the staff are professionals and they will bring what they think they need to run their operations and then what they would like to see. And then at that point, we would be bringing this to the mayor, and that would be the additional step before bringing it to yourselves, and then having that discussion at council as to where you want to end up with, and then bring that back to the mayor. But there's not a lot of extra money, Councillor Rivard, for projects, and I'm not going to pick a ward, but it just doesn't work that way. And it won't for a while. I don't think any other level of government is going to start throwing money at you. So it's going to have to be your own source revenue and the creativity of what this council has done already with respect to consolidating what they don't need and putting it where they do and finding other means. So anyway, just thought I'd share that before you go off on too many really interesting things that we can't afford.
Oh, thank you. Does anybody have anything else to add or ideas? We can move forward to the next item. Maybe we can discuss that at a later date, a little further, I guess. Oh, perfect, Donnie.
So, Mr. Chair, I think it's a good idea to at least maybe put a list of options or things that we need. Whether we get them cost out by staff at budget, or at least we'll know which priority or items that we might want to move forward is possible. And maybe have that discussion once we get closer to budget time. I think that would be a good approach if we can do that.
Yeah, I agree as well. If everyone is in fair agreement there, and then we'll just tackle it a little bit later once we have a little bit more numbers or more ideas and see everyone's priorities type of deal. See a lot of nodding heads, a lot of blank faces. Well,
Just before you move on to the next item, I'm just going to point out that our deputy clerk kind of combined two different memos onto this one item. You may have noticed that there was a whole other memo on potential financing and some other projects, and she sort of thought they were kind of together as one subject matter. So I, you know, it really is sort of a continued discussion on that, if you'd like me to sort of introduce that, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
So I apologize, council, that it went as one item, though you have these two different memos. And this act, but it actually does tie very well to what Councilor Rivard was just speaking about, and our CIO, as far as you know, projects and things like that. So there's a memo that talks about 3 capital service or community services capital projects that have been before council in brief or in other stages before. The Minnehaha Bay Wharf rehabilitation, you know, there was a brief discussion at budget, but the dollar tag on it was so significant that it was kind of just parked during our budget discussion. Council's had some various discussions about the Verner Municipal Building rehabilitation, how we're delivering services in Verner. This is the as they've kind of a Class D estimate on what the rehab of that facility would be. And so I'm gonna say the Minnehaha Bay, if we don't do anything, we are going to have to shut down the boardwalk by the end of the season, I believe, is sort of our timeline. Like we're up against the, you know, we've got some choices of that. And the same with the Verner Municipal Building. We've talked about a few different things, but we are going to start to have some engineering issues with that building if we don't address what we're going to do with delivering services in Verner. And then the Goulard Park reconstruction, as you said, the discussion about the tenders on the later in the meeting, but we had talked when we were applying for the NHSC funding about, you know, what the cost of doing 2 fields were, how we were going to fund 2 fields, and all that kind of thing. So some of these projects are eligible for funding. We have not heard on any of that funding yet. If we look at the total cost of those projects, it's 7.8, almost $7.9 million. We have 149 that's committed from the Blue Jays Fund. All the rest is uncommitted funds at this time. Potentially, if we were successful in all those grant applications, it might get reduced down to 5.2 million of municipal costs, but that's still a significant cost. And so I'm just, and again, it's not that we're committing to financing or committing to these projects. And now I'm just saying that if council wants to see these projects move ahead, you know, we can look at securing financing for those projects. And financing, I've used some estimates from Infrastructure Ontario. Now, the advantage of Infrastructure Ontario over sort of traditional financing is that you can get longer terms at a set rate usually. Than if you're going with traditional financing, you might be doing at 20 years, but you're going to have to renew every 5 years, which sometimes you win or lose on. But you know, the Infrastructure Ontario, what you get is the security of the funding. It's a bit of a different. Yeah, this council hasn't done any Infrastructure Ontario financing. I think the last one we did was with the OPP station. So it's a few more hoops that we have to jump through on paperwork, but really it just is a loan then, and then we have a loan. You know, whether it's traditional funding or financing or Infrastructure Ontario financing, you know, we would have construction financing through the period. And when the construction is done, we would bundle it up. And that's the point when you kind of term it out at whatever the rates are at that time. Now, the reason I'm putting the number of projects together is financing is always an option, but it's actually easier to finance it's easier to finance $5 million than it is to finance $700,000. You know, and so these projects are projects that have got Class D, have sort of got started, that we could get done. Because I also, it's difficult to bundle projects that we're going to actually be 7 years from start to finish on completing the project. So we have to have, you know, these projects. So this is just sort of an option that I want to put in front of council, but it does tie to Councillor Rivard's thought as well, that if we're going to bundle projects and there's a few lower projects and we want to bundle a bunch of stuff together, then bundling those community services projects is a better approach than trying to finance, like I said, a $700,000 project, or even financing $1 million project. It is easier to get this stuff through Infrastructure Ontario than to try to get those those small loans and maintain those small loans. And the traditional sources don't even look at us really for those $100 million fund financings anymore. It's just, it's not worth their trouble to be looking at us. So it really is just to put it in front of council to say, are you interested in this? Are you actually interested in these projects even? You know these projects are there, and just say, we have this discussion of financing. And again, it's not a whole picture. I was just speaking during break to Councilor Larrabee that we're close to having a fresh 5-year capital plan for you that'll have you that bigger picture. Perhaps some of this discussion of what to do with reserves is sort of that bigger picture, but we wanted to sort of get this in front of you so you've got a bit of a thought process. If there's any other thoughts that you want us investigating between now and then, so we've got that kind of direction from you. So I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Scott, for the added information. So I'll open up the floor.
Mr. Cabral. Let's say if you borrow, let's say, $5 million compared to $1 million, like you say, it's easier. What would be the difference in the interest rate?
I don't have that answer for you right now, Councilor Parliament. Some of it is if I get below $1 million, I can't even get financing. Like, they're not even going to look at that kind of stuff. But I don't have the difference in interest rate for you tonight, Councilor Parliament. I can certainly give some scenarios, come back with some scenarios. This is what, $1 million looks like. This is what $5 million looks like. This is what $7 million looks like. And here's the payment that goes along with it. And here's the room we've got, and we've got burner water that we're going to have to partially borrow for as well, yeah. But I can certainly bring back some more scenarios if council is interested in looking at more scenarios.
But the burning water is gonna be a separate subject.
It is, but it's financing, but it's going to be a separate subject, yes. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Question. As well, so something like this, do we have any idea what something like a Cache Bay Hall would require if we bundle things in, right? Or that's like down the line because we'd have to do a full-on assessment of that building. What?
So if I may, Mr. Chair, we do have a building condition assessment for the Cache Bay Hall. What we're presenting here are some of the priority projects that we've identified that we think we need to move forward with. Council wishes to borrow more than what's being suggested to continue adding projects so that we can get more done, more financing will be required. It's council's wish. They just need to direct us to prioritize what other projects council would like to get done, and we can work on getting estimates and coming back and adding that. The other project that we have talked about recently, because we had submitted an application for funding through the sports recreation facility program, and were unfortunately not successful, was the rehabilitation of the pool and fitness center. That would be one phase of the complex rehabilitation as well. Then there's the Marcel Noël Hall and the Jane and Marcel Labbé Arena that we had earmarked for a little over $8 million if we add all 3 phases to that. So there's no shortage of projects, obviously. It's council's wish to proceed, but the three projects identified in Ms. Craddock's memo is the priority projects that we brought forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I was going off of the if you bundle everything, right? I tried to make your job easier, but Councilor Larrabee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any of those projects would fit in OADA grants?
So I'm not aware, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware of AODA grants that exist currently that would support these projects. There are smaller grants, but part of the rehabilitation, if you look at any new construction we do, we always have to take into account AODA. And so NOHFC, for example, if we do get funding either for the baseball fields and if we're successful to get funding for the wharf, there are always AODA components to all of our construction projects, so they would fund part of that. But I'd have to look to see if there's specific AODA project or programs that exist that could assist with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm on, right?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, it- I look at the three projects that are presented here. And Minnehaha Bay one hurts because it's really expensive and it's not gonna look anything different than it looks right now when it's done. Like, there'll be no visual difference, and so that it just kind of hurts to spend that kind of money when there's not really any kind of like visible improvement, and that's that's just here or there. The Verner Municipal Building, I mean, this council's had several conversations in regards to that building. And like the overall condition of it and the usefulness of it as a municipal asset, when balanced against the cost of renovations. Has there been any investigation into whether we can continue to offer the same level of services in a new structure? Because that was part of a discussion that we had at one point, whether or not there was, some kind of, prefab solution that could serve the needs of the library and other tenants. But renovating these schools is extraordinarily expensive. And I think that when we discussed it, like that's a 2022 estimate, so we're probably actually looking at 2.5 or something like that now. And when it's all done, the building will probably be worth $1 million. So we're gonna spend $2.5 million on a building that will end up having a book value of $1 million. And with no real revenue coming out of that building, or at least we don't have revenue coming out of that building that even supports the operating costs. Like what we make out of that building doesn't keep the lights on. So we'll not only be paying principal and interest on construction costs of that building, we'll also be paying to keep the lights on, and I have real issues spending that kind of money because we know the condition of that building is bad, and we know the condition is bad because the gym got torn off in 2018. And so in 2018, it was bad. It's no better than it was now. And I feel like we are, what's the saying my mother would use? Never mind. I can't say it up loud. But like we're throwing good money after bad kind of thing on this particular structure, on the building itself. I would love to see kind of financial analysis of like other options. So where can we put a library? How can we keep providing the services that we provide out of that building? Is there a more cost-effective way to do it? Because I'm not convinced that renovating a 70-year-old school at $2.5 million is a good expenditure.
So just through you to address some of our thoughts, we have looked at other options and we've discussed this at length. And there's no easy solution to what we're faced with in Vernon. Again, the numbers for 2022, we're probably expecting some higher numbers when, if we were to go to tender. We've looked at our obligations to provide space to OMAFRA. We've looked at our obligations potentially to relocate the library. Dr. Bourgault is also located in that space, and there's also a community group, UCFO. It's a 10,000 square foot building. There's less than 1,000 square feet that are vacant. OMAFRA occupies roughly 1,700 square feet. Dr. Bourgault 784. The library occupies almost 1,600 square feet. Our fitness center occupies nearly 1,600 square feet as well. The revenue derived from that building from lease revenue does not pay all the bills for that building. If we were to invest a little over $2 million, our architect has advised us that building would then be completely almost redone and be sound. and would extend, obviously, its life. We looked at potentially moving, disposing of that site. There's another twist to it. We've got a splash pad, we've got a playground. We've looked at what that would mean. We would need to make an investment. We looked at potentially the cost of demolishing the building. There's a cost associated to that. We looked at, is it feasible to see if a private contractor would buy it and convert it into whatever, housing or whatnot? But then we would have to build an addition to our arena. Either way we spin it, we're looking at $2 million investment at the bare minimum to continue providing some of the services and some of our responsibilities. We'd have to, and that wasn't even accounting for space for OMAFRA at the Vern Arena. It was simply potentially a small doctor's office and a library. And then our obligation to find space for OMAFRA, we'd have to look into that further. And then we had also costed out potentially selling the entire site and building a new splash pad and a new playground next to the new facility attached to the Vern Arena. So either way, we've looked at it. We're looking at a minimum investment of $2 million. So it's not an easy solution. I get 100% what you're saying, Madam Mayor. So we've come to the conclusion that we feel that by investing the 2.25 plus into that building, we're getting everything redone essentially, from the building envelope, which is the roof, the brick structure, the new boilers. We're renovating interior finishes, new windows. It's essentially going to be a totally renovated building that could continue housing the library and our fitness center if, or we even discussed at length as well, is there any way that we could potentially add revenue to that building? Because our fitness center is not being utilized. For the investment we're making in there, we're losing money every year. There's just not a lot of people using the fitness center, but we still have agreements to maintain and repair the equipment and have the equipment serviced, and we're investing on new equipment. So could we potentially convert 2 classrooms where our fitness center is and see if we can get some more rental revenue to help support the ongoing efforts of that building? So we've looked at all options, and what we're presenting to council right now is to renovate, invest, and maintain those services within our community. But it's not an easy solution.
Conseiller Ballet.
Thank you as well. Just to let you know, that building, yeah, it may be old, but it's solid. It's not. If you look when we go to the soup and sandwich at the Club de Métier, you know that building? It's probably older than that school, and they've redone the brick. They hired a company and they fix all the brick for not very much money. So I'd like to see the report that you have, Mr. Boulay, that comes up to 2.5, 2.2 million, just to see what they suggest. Like a few people in Verner said that we don't need the Taj Mahal. We just want the building to continue this. So I'd like to see that report, and some people would be interested to look at it and go from there. Is it possible to see that report?
Yes.
I mentioned it in the past. So
It's a public report, absolutely.
Okay.
Municipality paid for it. It's a public document.
Okay.
I believe it was presented at the time.
Not the Class D. I don't know if it's the Class D.
Like the engineering report. Yeah.
Yeah, the-
We have a full engineering
Yeah.
report, so, yeah. And to your comment, Counselor, I don't think that the Class D or the engineering report is not to build a Taj Mahal. We're not going to have gold doors. It's basically to fix the building. It's a 70-year-old building, or whatever it is. And it's to basically make sure that no more water is seeping through the walls, that we're not seeing further deterioration. It's to fix the bricks and mortar, and then to add all of the AODA compliant work that needs to be done, the washrooms, the boiler needs to be updated. So it's not, we're not building something luxurious. We're basically bringing that building so that it can function properly and sustain itself for the next 20 years.
There's a big chunk of it has been done, like the doors have been done. That's probably a good, what, 15,000-20,000 bucks. Macro's office are almost a 5-star in there. So we're left with the windows. I'd like to bring a guy, an expert that go around, see which window, what's needed. And they bring the same thing. I got the number for the guy that did the other building and it's identical. So we got a price. It's nothing to you, Mr. But when we go to a consultant, I always go back to the Eugene Bridge. We can get other ideas. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I think basically, at the end of the day, what staff are presenting us is these engineers are saying that it's going to be approximately between 2.2 to 2.5. If we decide to move forward, then it goes out to tender. Who knows? We might be surprised and somebody might come in and say they will do all the work for 1.5 or 1.6. However, we have to respect the fact that the engineers have looked at it and said it's between 2.2 and 2.5 or whatever it is. And I mean, we've seen it with some of the public works stuff that everything's coming late, not all of it, knock on wood, but stuff is coming below what is being recommended. So I think we need to keep that in mind, even though that's what we're being shown, that's what the engineer is saying. Let's hope that it's lower when the time comes for tenders.
Thank you, Councilor Sally, good point. And I don't see anything else. I don't see other hands. I was just wondering, you mentioned there's about 1,000 to 1,200 vacant. Then there's the gym not being used. Can we not remove that from this engineered report? Tear down 2,600 square feet, and then you have a smaller building that you require to rebuild, right? Like, is that not an option too? Then, because what's the point in rehabilitating an entire building if 2,600 square feet is not being used whatsoever? Like,
So just to clarify, Counselor, we've got a vacant classroom, which is essentially the size of 784 square feet. That's used as a community boardroom. We do host meetings and our community groups can go in. So to say it's in the middle of the building, so we can't tear it down.
no, I just.
And then we have a smaller room towards the end of the hallway, adjacent to OMAFRA space. And it used to be a video conference room for OMAFRA. It's just a small little cubby hole. It's 300 square feet. So we have a little over 1,000 square feet of vacant space right now, but it's like, other than that boardroom, if we convert it to office space and have somebody else come in, there's not really a way we can scale back the project, unfortunately.
Yeah, I still think so. That's fine. That's beyond me. But that seems like the discussion on the table is what we have here in front. Willing to entertain some sort of financing method to pay for these kind of, right? So is that something that council is?
Mr. Chair. I'd like to see the cost of building a new building instead of investing into this old building first. So whatever square footage that we need. Before I actually make a decision if what to reinvest in this old school or not. Because I know industrial square footage is even cheaper than residential, so that's one thing I'd like to see. Whether same location, tearing down the old building or not, I'd least like to see that number. Maybe it will come in at over 2 million, but without having that number, I'm not willing to spend some money. And my other question, Mr. Chair, and when was the last time the municipality borrowed money to for infrastructure project like that's being recommended right now?
So 2019, when we, no, it wouldn't have been 2019, it would have been after that, but the OPP build would have been the last time that we borrowed infrastructure money.
For the OPP?
Yeah.
No, I mean municipal infrastructure.
That is our infrastructure.
But yeah, I know, but I mean besides the OPP, before.
Oh, before the OPP building? Yes, that was before we did for public, or for community services. We did a 2017, I think. We did it at the same time. I think we did a whole bunch of bundling of stuff. My stuff's being really slow to open here, sorry. Yeah, so before the OPP building, it would have been 2017, and so we did this bundling. It was a community services, a number of infrastructure projects. I think the museum was included with some of that. But we bundled that in 2017. We did the complex roof before that, and then we did complex roof and bundled money for this facility in 2012, 2013.
How much money did we borrow approximately? You don't need exact money.
Actually, I'm only looking at what the balances are now and not what the starting point was. I'm sorry, Councillor Gagne, I don't have that number for you. I can certainly give you what all those loans were as we balance them, and what our balance is now, because that does impact what our borrowing capacity is. You know, we've got lots of borrowing capacity, but municipal affairs says that, you know, there's a limit to what our repayment is. Certainly, if we're coming back with scenarios or reconstruction, I will bring the rest of the loan details for you.
Could we get that information before I would agree myself to borrowing more money?
Absolutely.
What we've borrowed so far, what's left and how many years,
Yep, absolutely.
and the amount also, total amount. That way, a bit more educated on my side to see if we want to borrow another 8 million, or maybe just afford to fix the emergency items, and that information, please, if yeah, no, that's possible.
I would agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So moving forward with this, I'm not too sure what, doesn't look like we've really come to a consensus. We're gonna wait for more information. So we can.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, that's what I was looking for, is looking for what other pieces that council needed. You know, so it was just that start the conversation. So, I've heard so that we're going to, you know, look at what some different scenarios as far as how much financing will bring back, what our total loan package looks like right now, as well as that reconstruction versus rehabilitation. You know, you know, Mr. Poulin has done all that work, but actually put it on paper so you can see what the costs are compared to each other, and we'll certainly bring that back. Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Hey, one question. If we have the same thing for the wharf, like I know we do rent the docks. And I think we do make money off the gas, if I'm not mistaken. So once we remove all of our expenses for staff and so on, I imagine there might be a bit of money there. So if there is, hopefully there is, I'd be curious to see how much there is and if that can be reinvested in the financial portion of the wharf also. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, we're gonna sleep by the way.
While you're at it. While you're at it, could we have a number two of maybe a hobby? The entire, are we making money with this place, or?
Oh.
Losing money, or we?
Oh, we're losing money. Lose money on anything.
I that's similar to what Councillor Gagne was requesting, was what the overall mini hobby. So absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So I thought he was just meant the gas, or?
No, the rental.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So it seems like we have our work cut off for us there. I'd just like to suggest that maybe this is something that would be like a special meeting with all these items, eh? Like, we've just went through 2 hours here talking about one item on the agenda, and it's gonna be difficult to get through some of this stuff, in my opinion, if we talk about community services once every month, type of deal. But this converter building seems to have been going on for a while, same with the wharf. So, but we can close that item and move forward to the most important part of the agenda. Naming of ice resurfacers on the plow. Pricing update. So there's a report there. And in total, we'll try and quickly, total for 6 vehicles, the estimate would be about $1,400. To name the plows and the Zambonis, and to have decals placed on them. So I'll open up the floor to any comments, questions, concerns for staff or. Okay, well, the reason I brought it forward was hoping that maybe, Counselor Nichols, sorry, I didn't turn that way.
Through you. I won't leave you hanging, but I think it's a fun, low-cost way to engage residents and build some community pride, and I think we should move forward with it.
Thanks, that's actually why I brought it forward. I was thinking it'd be fun. I told my mom about it today and she was all excited. She said she sees it on the news everywhere and thinks it would be pretty cool for the students to get involved here in our township as well. So, would I put this to a vote to see if we're kind of in favor of moving forward with an initiative like this so that, at a cost of approximately $1,400. So by a show of hands, who would be in favor of staff moving forward with this type of initiative? That seems like that's favorable. So that'll come back at a later meeting with more info, I guess, or just as passes an official resolution. Okay, thank you.
Resolution.
Thanks.
Is that your,
No, now we're in to another very intensive item, the baseball field tender discussion. Open up the floor to any questions or comments. It's regarding or would I pass it over to Mr. Poulet first?
And I can provide some info, Mr. Chair. So as council is aware, we did release a tender for the construction of field number 1 and field number 2 at Goulart Park, baseball fields, I should say. A total of 4 contractors did attend a site meeting. However, we only received 1 bid on this tender, and we're estimating the construction of both ball fields to be over budget by roughly $159,000. So there's a couple little moving parts here as well. So as council is aware, we did get some funding from the Blue Jays Care Foundation, $149,000. And we also have submitted an application for funding for with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation. We haven't received any word from NOHFC. We're waiting, but it could take a month or 2 or maybe longer. We're not sure of a timeline whether we'll be approved or not for $500,000 towards this project. What we are recommending to council, due to the fact that it's over budget, is to re-tender the project. Work through the winter months or later fall and early winter, re-tender the project, and hopefully we can get some more interest and some better pricing for our project, and which would give probably us time to hear back from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund and have a more complete picture budget-wise for council moving forward. As far as the Blue Jays Care Foundation, if council wishes to proceed that way and retender, we had indicated to the Blue Jays Care Foundation through our application that we were anticipating completing the project this year. However, we have reached out to them and inquired to see if they would be willing to provide an amendment to our contract with them, allowing this project to be completed in the spring of 2026. Inquiry is being sent to their grants committee, and we're awaiting a response fairly shortly. I'm going by just my gut feeling is that I feel that we will get a favorable response, but again, we won't know until we get an official response from the Blue Jays Care Foundation on whether they will allow the project to be completed in the spring of 26. That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Poulet, for the recommendation and summary. I'd like to open lots of hands. Councilor Restoll.
Oh, I think we are. Bust in first.
okay, I just have a question in regards to NOHFC funding. With that funding program, would we be allowed to start construction before receiving confirmation of a grant, or do we need to wait for their answer? It's just after the application has been submitted?
Correct. Once the application is submitted, they stamp it, they date stamp it. Essentially, all costs incurred after the submission of your application is recoverable. However, it's always a gamble that we take, that if we don't get approved and we do spend the money, we're responsible for 100%.
Thank you.
Councilor Bristol.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I would again tend to agree with staff's recommendation. Looking at other processes that we do where we get things out early, like I'm thinking our roads. Tenders that go out, we are doing a quicker, earlier budget process. I'm sure that the mayor, with their strong mayor powers, will have that even expedited sooner. But that's led to better pricing for projects and savings for taxpayers at the end of the day. I think if we do this through the retendering, it'll allow more opportunity, maybe a earlier start to the season for contractors to start work on this early in 2026. And I also think that with community building and support and whatnot, I would be surprised as well, and I tend to agree with Mr. Poulin, that the Jays would, pull back these funds because of very legitimate reasons that we have here. We're over budget. We want to try and, start a new process that gets us within, what was approved for the project. And they know themselves because they just went over a massive renovation with their own baseball field that's gone over a little bit in time and cost. So I'm sure that building community partnerships, extending by a couple months wouldn't be something for them to reverse decisions and take funds back and hurt their image of not being a good community partner. So I'm sure that those funds would still be there in the early spring. A little bird told me that some of the other projects that they've supported in previous years were in similar situations where they didn't get completed until July or August of the following season for various reasons. So I think with the cost savings that we can achieve through retendering, I'd support going that way. We're over budget. We don't like to be over budget. We're not very often over budget with the projects that we approved in a whole bunch of areas across municipalities. So why not take the time, give a bit more time for NOHFC to respond as well, and hopefully we get a good response from there as well. But I think the savings that we can potentially achieve by retendering would be worth pushing the project back a couple months.
Thank you, Councilor Bristol. Thank
you, through you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, unfortunately, I'm of a different opinion. I made that clear earlier. My fear is, although yes, people have gut feelings or whatever, my fear is that what if the Blue Jays do pull that fund and our community pulled together this summer, this spring, we all got together at the Marcellenwell Hall, and it was a fantastic time. And what if we lose it? As for the NOHFC, obviously it's clear that even though if the project does start and we do get the grant, then the money can be put towards it. This project, this Goulart Park project has been ongoing for probably the last 10, 12 years, if not more. And finally, we're looking at taking the first step toward doing it. And if we delay it once again, what's to say that it won't get delayed in the spring once again? Yes, of course, I would hope that the following tenders might be lower or whatnot, but who's to say that they will, right? We don't know if those companies will have more jobs next summer and they won't have time or whatnot. So who's to say that those tenders will be below the cost? We've put money aside for this at budget, and we've discussed just prior to at length about the excessive money that we have. And I think this would be a good project to utilize the 50,000 or 100,000 to put towards the Goulart project that this municipality has been waiting for the last 10 years. If whatever amount.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll see you on.
Thank you, I'll say people. I agree with Conseil Restoul that financial prudent is best. We've had great success by retendering other projects and waiting. I wasn't in favor of tendering this project this late in the season because all contractors are currently busy. I've had a few contractors even approach me wondering why there's a big rush to getting this project finished by this fall. And that they are not submitting because they don't have time, and even ordering material will not arrive in time. So even what the situation is at the moment. So I agree to retender, wait. If the Jays Foundation doesn't come back and allow us to push this money, which they haven't said that they won't, then at that point, I'm sure that Monsieur Pounet will come back to us and say, we are in danger of losing this grant. And at that point, maybe we can make a decision. But I'm not in favor of spending another $150,000 over budget for this, since we've been financial prudent in the past. And I think we should move forward with being financial safe for taxpayers and us as councillors. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Don't see it. Don't see it, Pat.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Grind and Councillor Restoul. Can we wait for the decision from Blue Jays Foundation before we make any decision?
Because councils wish yeah.
How long do we have? Do we have a time limit before we can accept the bid or any of the bids? The two-part bid?
Generally, our stuff goes out with either like a 30-day or 60-day. I'm not sure on this one what the whole time is. Now, if we extend past whatever we said, oh, you must hold your bid for this amount, doesn't mean it automatically goes away, but it does mean that we're entering into, hey, are you still good with this kind of discussion with the contractor? But I'm not sure whether it was a 30-day or 60-day. It was probably a 60-day hold. A lot of the stuff is a 60-day when it goes out as a.
So we have plenty.
Yeah.
Just like to say, maybe not plenty of time, because I think the end date is like November or something, right? So if you wait too long for the guy or just go purchase material, it wouldn't even get done anyways. But I just wanted to mention that I'm in agreement, like if the savings, even if Blue Jays Care Foundation don't end up following through, which I strongly believe they will, because we're adding 2 fields, right? And it's kind of a grandiose scheme of things. It's not just fixing dugouts on an existing field. Like, this is a great community builder type of project. So I think they will come through, but if they don't, and the savings, I believe if we're spending more than 200, 300,000 more anyways, that 149 isn't really relevant at that point. You're still overspending compared to what we may be spending. But I do understand the concern as well. There's going to be some worrying nights until we receive that A-OK, in my opinion. But so by a show of hands, who would be in favor of retendering the process? That's you passed, and that ends. Do you need anything else from us, Mr. Play? Okay, thank you. That ends community services.
Okay, thank you very much. We have 2 items still remaining in committee of the whole. We're now sitting at 9:12 p.m. We have the rest of our regular agenda with a bunch of resolutions that do need to be passed, and both of the items that are there are budgetary items. So in the interest of time, there's 2 options here, because both of those, well, one for sure, but maybe both of them will require some significant conversation. And so in the interest of time, I'm looking to see whether there would be interest in referring those 2 items to the next meeting, so that we can get through the rest of the agenda and moving into closed session. I would need a mover and a seconder on.
Like something slightly different, like we just move forward with the other agenda, and then if we have time, maybe we can tackle, but if we defer, then it's on.
Well, it's
Like,
just
say we-
referred to the next meeting, but it's gonna take us 10 minutes to get through all of the resolutions, and then we have a closed session, so we're already looking at extending curfew. I think that those two items likely are 45 minutes in length. So I would take a motion to defer from Councillor Restuel, seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Questions or comments on the motion to defer? No, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to the regular meeting. First item, sorry, Madam Clerk wasn't ready with all her resolutions, so we'll just give her 10 seconds to get her stack of papers there.
It is moved by Councillor Restool and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that the consent agenda for the council and committee of the whole meeting held on September the 16th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Questions, comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 7.2 planning.
It is moved by Councillor St. Louis and seconded by Councillor Ferrer. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-71 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located on Kennel Road from rural residential with a hazard overlay to tourist commercial exception zone 2 with a hazard overlay shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Okay, questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. 7.3 correspondence. That's just a piece of information from a Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. Did you want to add anything on that, Mr. Barbeau? Is there anything we need to be aware of as council? Okay, thank you.
No.
He shook his like this. Okay, and 7.4 new business, 741, please.
It is moved by Councillor St. Louis and seconded by Councillor Ferrer. Whereas at the meeting of August the 12th, 2025, Council for the Municipality of West Nipissing discussed a request to purchase land municipally owned land described as Block C, Plan M477, located on Bourgault Street in the Municipality of West Nipissing. And whereas Council has determined the lands are not required for municipal purposes, be it therefore resolved that the lands described as Block C, Plan M477, Bourgault Street in Sturgeon Falls are hereby declared surplus to the needs of the Municipality of West Nipissing, and be it resolved that staff are authorized to obtain an opinion of value for the property and to report back with recommended next steps.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Gagne.
What's the value of the property that we're selling it? Yeah.
Yeah, what's that book in the book value?
What's the book value?
I don't have that tonight for you. We can certainly find that one. But I don't have that one for you.
Yes, so I'd like to defer.
You'd like to defer?
I'd like to defer until we know the book value, because if it's not worth the appraisal, like, we have a good idea what a piece of land is worth now, so if there's a book value high enough on it, I don't think it's being even worth spending time to get an appraisal.
Okay, so we have a motion to defer on the table from Councillor Gagne. Is there a seconder? Is that a second?
I don't know if I can have it.
Well, there's a motion on the table, so first I need a seconder, and then if there, Councillor Rex will second. And then questions or comments on the deferral, please.
I think it's on the deferral.
Yeah,
Councillor
absolutely. Go
Gagne
ahead.
requested information about the book value. I'd also just like clarity on when it comes back. We talked about this earlier when we first spoke about this item a month ago, about it being a standalone, able to build on type of lot with access through the road access on the edge of Michaud Street. As CEO has a stand.
Yeah, there was a report, a staff report there. Mr. Barbeau, would you like to speak with that?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, there was, and I apologize for meeting the meeting of August 12th. There was some discussion about it appearing to have to be a buildable lot, and with my experience, that took me by surprise, being the managing director of Power Gen, and because my understanding was that land would have been floodplain. And in fact, we can cut to the chase, but Mr. Carell, who was also here in Sturgeon, when I shared the information of what council was looking at, expressed the same issue, is that that's not a sellable or a buildable lot. half of it is floodplain. And then the other aspect is the strong historical issue with respect to the fact that we have services on that unopened road allowance. The third that's not in the report was that the individual who purchased the property, who's not waterfront, has been benefiting from it, but was also given the understanding for some of his decking and that kind of thing, that he would be able to develop a deck with respect to, with the understanding and the assertions made by back in the day, Sturgeon Falls, which is now us, that land could not be sold to anybody else. So I just wanted to add that for clarification, and I think that the report indicates that that land really isn't a buildable lot. That land, if you wanted to sell it, you'd probably sell it to the adjacent landowner, given the fact that it's not a buildable lot. With respect to Councillor Gagne's assertion, I believe that the one way we can handle this, if council wants to declare it surplus, and again, let me just ramble on here. Declaring something surplus is that you've determined that it's surplus to your needs. And so is it surplus to your needs? Given the information that we have before us, we're never going to be using it for our needs in the manner that is, it's just never going to be, because it's so out of the norm. So then the price that's determined, given the book value issues and the wish for council to ensure that we get value for it, we would be taking that into consideration in determining price. So if we get an opinion of value, market, but then we say that there's a book value of whatever, then we'll bring that to council, and council can make the determination of what they would sell the property for. But right now, the decision is, do you wish to declare it surplus or not? Thank you.
There is still a motion. The motion is still on the floor. Councillor Westall, your question was answered? That was your
It's in the
question?
comeback.
Yeah.
Change
Okay.
the vote later.
Okay, Councillor St. Louis, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
I think we're probably gonna see a pattern within the next 3 or the next 2. I tend to agree with Mr. Laveau. In my opinion, we're not utilizing these. I get what some of the councillors are saying, that we want to see the money in that column and not that column, where all of a sudden there's just a line in that column. And I get all that and understand. But at the end of the day, if we're gonna have buildings or land that we're not gonna use, and buildings that we're putting money into, I think we just need to surplus these properties, including this one.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments still on the deferral? Just on the deferral. And again, Mr. Barbeau is absolutely correct. Declaring surplus is not the same as selling it. And council can always change its mind and decide that we do actually need this piece of land. And I think that our discussion earlier in regards to the reserves indicate that for future properties, we would like to know the book value on properties as they come up to council. So when, because all of these have in the resolutions statement about staff coming back for next steps. So as part of those next steps, if we can get the book values, before the council is asked to make a decision on whether to sell it for what price, that would, I think that would might suffice. There is a vote on the table. So I'll call that to a vote. We'll go back to the regular resolution. All in favor of the deferral? All in favor of the deferral? That passes. Thank you. And so that defers, and we move on to the next 7.4.2, please.
This is moved by Councillor Ferran, seconded by Councillor St. Louis, whereas at its meeting of September the 2nd, Council of the West Nipissing Municipality discussed a request to purchase not right. Discussed property described as lots 7 to 10 west side of Ottawa Street and lots 7 to 10 east side Montreal Street, being municipally known as 30 Front Street in West Nipissing. And whereas council has determined that the lands are not required for municipal purposes, be it therefore resolved that the lands described as lots 7 to 10 west side Ottawa Street, lots 7 to 10 east side Montreal Street, and part of Montreal Street being Part 8, Plan 36R13818, registered Plan 14, being 30 Front Street, are B&R hereby declared surplus to the needs of the municipality.
Questions or comments?
No, be it further resolved,
Oh,
county
sorry.
staff are authorized to report back with recommended steps for disposition. Sorry, my fault.
Okay, questions or comments? Councillor Rivard.
Thank you. To save Madam Duchamp from doing that for the next one too, could I make a motion that we defer this one and 0.3? So
I think you still need to read the resolution.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Because
sorry.
we're all, thank you for the consideration. Any other questions or comments?
Wait.
No, you still has to read them.
7.4.2.
Okay, Councillor Rivard. There's a motion to defer on the table. Councillor Ferrance, a second. Okay, questions or comments on the deferral?
What's the motion to defer? Why? Why do you want to defer?
Same reason,
Sorry for the exact same.
book values.
Book value? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, all in favor, any other questions or comments on the deferral? Councillor, San Louis.
Once again, I'll reiterate that we have a building that we are losing money, that staff have reported will cost us millions of dollars to maintain within the next 5 years. So why are we deferring not to surplus it? I understand we want to see the cost and I understand all that stuff, but why are we deferring to surplus it when we can surplus it once they provide us with the information of the cost of the building and the book value of the building? Then we can determine to go forward or not. But if we defer it, then we're gonna go back and do the same steps next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Councillor St. Louis. Any other questions or comments on the deferral?
It is true what he's saying, but. Already put the motion.
Okay, so motion to defer is on the floor. All those in favor? Can you please keep your hands up long enough for me to count? That one does not pass. Okay, so now we're back to the regular motion to declare surplus. Questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Gani.
What does it cost us to have the evaluation done?
Through, sorry.
For this one, it's already done.
But no, but how much did it cost us?
This one,
The appraisal?
through you, Madam Chair, I think this one was about $3,300.
Okay, so we're spending $300 just to maybe we'll sell it. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. Councillor Fed,
Yeah.
all right, there's two Ps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was it an appraisal or an opinion of value
This was an appraisal.
appraisal? And that land, could it be severed? Is it big enough to have a separate lot? No?
Well, yes, if the building had no parking. You need the space that's there for parking.
Yeah, but depending what what you sell the building for. I'm just thinking of the maximizing
I wouldn't
our
recommend.
profit.
I don't think. I
No.
would recommend.
That, sorry, I'll just interrupt. Except I'm chairing, so it's not really an interruption. The conversation on that can happen. We don't need to have that conversation in order to surplus. Once it's surplus, we can have the conversation on how to dispose of it to maximize value for taxpayers once the valuation comes back and we have a valuation on this one. Okay. Questions or comments otherwise? Councillor Resto.
Hey, if we're gonna go overtime, we're really gonna go over. So just for my clarification for this item and for the next item, it doesn't matter if you defer it or not. We're still gonna get the information. We can still request of staff to bring the book value for these properties to the next discussion, and we can have that discussion here.
Where am I? We have a motion to declare surplus 30 Front Street. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, I'll put it to a vote. All in favor to declare 30 Front Street surplus. That's carried. Thank you. I think we can do one more because we do. Yeah, I do. I do.
It is moved by Councillor Fedin and seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Whereas at the meeting of September 2nd, Council for the Municipality of West Nipissing discussed a request to discuss lands municipally known as part of Lot 5 Concession A in the Township of Springer, located at Demers and Riverfront. And whereas council has determined that the lands are not required for municipal purposes, be it resolved that the lands described as part of Lot 5 Concession A, being number 490850395, Demers and Riverfront, B&R declared surplus to the needs of the municipality, and be it further resolved that staff report back to council with options for a request for proposal and the disposition of the lands.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gani.
Mayor, if we can have the book value come back, please, at the
Okay,
next meeting when this item comes back. on
okay,
the
so
agenda,
declare
please.
surplus today, but make sure
Yep, that we get the.
that we do get the book value on all those. I think that the memo's been taken by staff that for all future disposition of land, we'd like book value.
See what you started.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I do need a mover and a seconder to extend curfew. We need the 2/3 majority. Rivard Restool, please. Councillor Rivard, Councillor Restool.
Is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Restool at 9:30 PM. A motion was tabled to extend the meeting beyond regular curfew in order to proceed with the agenda.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. I know you're tired. Please keep your hands up long enough that I actually see this. It did pass with 2/3 thing. Okay, 7.4.4.
It is moved by Councillor Fedin, seconded by Councillor St. Louis, whereas Section 42 of the Municipal Elections Act permits alternative voting methods, and whereas on September the 2nd, Council received a staff report from the clerk on voting methods for the 2025 or 2026 municipal election, and whereas Council's determined that internet telephone voting supports accessibility, efficiency, security, and integrity. Be it therefore resolved that Council adopts bylaw number 2025-72, authorizing internet and telephone voting for the 2026 municipal and school board elections.
Questions or comments, Councillor St. Louis?
Does that include the kiosks that we had talked about for people to come here?
That would still be electronic. That would
Okay.
still be internet.
Thank you.
No questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Let's carry. Thank you. 745.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Gagne, whereas Section 222 of the Municipal Act authorizes a municipality to divide or redivide its wards, and whereas Council for the Municipality of West Nipissing has undertaken a ward boundary review and completed the required public consultation, be it resolved that Council adopts bylaw 2025-73 to redivide the boundaries of the 8 wards of the Municipality of West Nipissing, in accordance with Schedule A to the bylaw, with the new ward boundaries coming into force for the new council following the 2026 municipal election and the 2026 municipal election to be conducted as if the bylaw were already in force.
Okay, questions or comments? All in favor? Let's carry. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Be it resolved that the quotation for the supply of winter sand for the municipality of West Nipissing be awarded to A. Niron Topsoil, having submitted a quotation of $14.90 per ton for the Verner Yard and $17.20 per ton for the Sturgeon Falls Yard, meeting all specifications.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gagne?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one question. Have we ever went out for tender for like a 3-year or 5-year contract to see if there would be cost savings? Because I know some organization will do snow removal, a contract for 5 years.
We have on some, I can't think whether we've ever done that on winter sand in the past. We certainly do that on other ones. I don't know. Not recently at all. I don't know whether we have in the past or not, but certainly not recently. We've not done it with winter sand, no.
Yeah, because if there's a long year commitment from us to the contractors, so maybe it'd be worth it. So just a suggestion. Boom. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Other questions or comments, please? Council Pelletier.
Yeah, thank you, my mayor. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Gagné and no, if we go year by year, that we that maybe put it earlier.
Put the bid out earlier?
You know,
Okay, yeah, we can start to take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other questions, comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Pelletier and seconded by Councillor Gagne. Whereas years of research confirms the benefits of high quality learning and childcare for young children's intellectual, emotional, social, and physical development and later life outcomes. And whereas childcare promotes the well-being of children and responds to the needs of families and the broader community by supporting the quality of life so that citizens can fully participate in and contribute to the economic and social life of the community. And whereas trained and knowledgeable early childhood educators are the key to quality in early years and childcare programs, including licensed childcare, early on programs, child life programs, and full day kindergarten. And whereas registered early childhood educators and childcare workers are vital to the success of the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system, be it therefore resolved that Council for the Municipality of West Nipissing does hereby proclaim October the 21st, 2025 as the 25th Annual Childcare Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day in recognition of the education, dedication, and commitment of childcare workers to children, their families, and the quality of life in the community.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Pelletier and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Whereas Potential Renewables has provided notice of its intent to submit a proposal under the IESO Long-Term 2 RFP. And whereas the proposal is for the construction and operation of the Crystal Falls Solar Project located within the municipality of West Nipissing, the project details are as follows. Proponent name, Potential Renewables. Project name, Crystal Falls Solar Project. Technology, solar. Maximum potential contract capacity, 140. Municipal project lands, and there's several PIN numbers and I won't read them all out. Now, be it therefore resolved that Council for the Municipality of West Nipissing supports the submission of a proposal by Potential Renewables to the IESO for the Crystal Falls Solar Project. And be it further resolved that this resolution is provided solely for the purpose of meeting the requirements of the IESO LT2 RFP and does not constitute any other municipal permit approval or endorsement.
Okay, questions or comments? Councillor Gagne.
Madam Mayor, what's the tax recovery on a solar farm? Is it still just considered like vacant land?
No, they do have an assessment so that it's pulled out as a commercial. And so they do get a separate assessment on the portion where like say a solar farm is sitting, yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Other questions, comments? All, Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you. Yeah, just for your info, like we've got three large buildings in the municipality and they've got solar panels on top. So the building itself is tax commercial. So it's
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you. I know that we were looking at, increasing the volume of electricity to put on the grid because of the power dam that we have in Sturgeon Falls. Projects like this would not, did we get approved? Or project like this, would that disrupt our application to, because there's only so much electricity could be put in the grid? So just a question, does anybody would know if we got approved for to go higher on the electrical grid?
Mr. Barbeau?
Through you, Madam Mayor, technically and theoretically, that is possible, that the Crystal Falls distribution system has a limit to it. That being said, we are rated at a certain capacity and we're at that rating. We have a long-term agreement with that. So in terms of our operation, I don't see it affecting our operation at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Pavet. Whereas council has received the staff memorandum dated September the 11th, 2025, outlining a discretionary grant request from the Golden Age Club, $50 to Sturgeon Falls, for the use of the Marcel Noel Hall and its kitchens for its annual Christmas dance and dinner, with a requested fee waiver of $970. Be it resolved that council approve the discretionary grant in the amount of $970 for the Golden Age Club, $50 to Sturgeon Falls, for its annual Christmas dinner and dance at the Marcel Noel Hall.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Pavet and seconded by Councillor Rivard. At its meeting of August the 12th, 2025, council discussed the potential transfer of authority of Doki's Reserve Road to the Doki's First Nation. And whereas council agreed that staff prepare a report on the potential road transfer strategy to effect the transfer of authority. Be it resolved that municipal staff are hereby directed to prepare a report on the proposed strategy for the transfer of authority over Doki's Reserve Road from the municipality of West Nipissing to the Doki's First Nation.
Thank you. And I'll just state in addition that I did receive an email today from Doki's First Nation with a resolution from their band council in support of the ongoing work that we've been doing with them. And we just wanted to make sure we had that on file before we directed staff to start working on the strategy. So all the ducks are in a row, and that did get received today and forwarded to staff. So thank you. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Look at that. I will not give a mayor's report because we are past curfew and okay, well, the last field farmers market of the year is this Saturday, and the other event I've seen posted around is No More Tears is going to be having a dodgeball brawl with the OPP at Villard Park on Saturday as well, which should be an interesting event. So I hope everybody checks that out. And congratulations to the Legion on their successful car show last weekend, and to the Sturgeon Falls Beautification Group for the last market of the year, which was also super awesome. So thank you. And with that resolution.
It is moved by Councillor Nicol and seconded by Councillor Pavet. Be it resolved that we proceed into closed meeting as authorized in section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to discuss the following: personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations regarding the CAO transition.
Questions, comments? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.